Greetings and salutations. Welcome to Knife Chats with Tobias.
I'm often searching for toothpick knives on eBay as well as other places, and quite often a knife that pops up when I'm searching for toothpick knives is a knife that looks very similar to this with the shape of the handle and everything. They will often refer to them as a biker's toothpick. And well, obviously it doesn't look anything like what I consider a toothpick. And the biker's toothpicks are often listed as a 5-inch biker's toothpick. Well, this is what most people would refer to as a 5-inch toothpick, closed length 5 inches. You open it up and you got a knife that is 9 inches long, right? Well, the biker's toothpicks that they sell on eBay and in other places, when they refer to a 5-inch toothpick, they're actually talking about a knife that, when open, is 5 inches long. So basically, the tiny toothpick. But it's in this frame. So it's a 3-inch frame like this, and then it's got a 2-inch blade. I was always intrigued by the knife, but it's like, that's not a toothpick. What in the world is it? Well, it turns out after doing a little bit of research, I found out exactly what these knives are, and why they're selling them as a biker's toothpick is beyond me, because the actual history behind this knife and this pattern is much cooler than biker's toothpick. And also, even this knife is kind of small considering where the knife actually began life. The knife is actually an old world pattern, and both Italy and France can lay claim to the knife because the knife actually originated supposedly in Corsica, and it's known as the Corsican Vendetta knife. And the reason it could be classified as a French knife is at the time in the 17th century when these knives were being made and stuff, apparently France controlled Corsica. However, the bulk of the population of Corsica at that time were Italian speaking, and the knives typically had a handle that was decorated with roses, and then the blade would have an etch on there that was written in Italian that had numerous different vengeful sayings on them, depending on who made the knife. But that's why they were referred to as Vendetta knives. And they were supposedly knives that were used during the Vendetta Wars that took place in Corsica. There was a lot of family feuding going on, and the knife was a typical way to solve the debate, I guess you could say. In any case, the handle of the knife is very similar to this. Quite often the bottom of it would be rounded, but it would be a bare head bottom, and then it'd have a long bolster on there, and it would have that step in there where the hand would drop. There are also versions of this knife that are fixed blade with a much longer blade. Matter of fact, even many of the folding knives were much larger than this knife, some of them being as much as like 8 inches when closed. So a good 17 inches long, things like that were not uncommon even among the folding knives. But typically the fixed blade versions would almost look like a large carving knife or something like that with a very long blade. But the folders often were just a type of slip joint. I don't know if they locked in any way or shape or form. I do know I have seen versions from like the early 20th century or late 19th century that have a lock back. But mostly what I have seen are versions that were just slip joints. And the blade shape was pretty much what you're seeing here, which is pretty cool. It's just kind of a drop point or a spear point blade. The knife obviously fell out of favor because, well, Vendetta knife. But then when Corsica became a hotspot for tourism and stuff, the pattern actually picked up and became a little bit more popular. Now, this particular one, as you can see, is made, well, it's got a Damascus blade. It's got the typical file work going on. I got this one through, I think, SK Customs on eBay. Obviously, the parts, if nothing else, are out of Pakistan. I do not know if the knife was assembled in the United States or not. SK Customs is a company here in the United States, or if the knives were assembled in Pakistan to the specs of SK Custom. I have a feeling it's the latter. They were actually made in Pakistan and then shipped here and sold here. The handle here is really what got me to buy this knife, though, because I just really like this acrylic knife. The acrylic handle on here. Okay, if you can see there, you've got the mosaic pen, and it is nicely seated there. It very smooth against the acrylic background there, and then you do see it on the other side. And now, if you notice right there, see there, we come across. They're not exactly aligned straight. That's not a problem. You can't really tell from side to side. But it's really a nice little pen. Now, obviously, it's just seated a little bit into the acrylic handle there, but it is flush on both sides. You can feel it when you rub your hand across it, but it is very flush. You can't pick up on it or anything like that. Then you do have the brass pins that are actually holding the handle in place. This is the brass pin that goes all the way through for the back spring on there. Here's the file work, if you can see it there. It's a steel bolster. I don't know if it's stainless steel or what, but you do have the steel bolster going. There's the file work going all the way down. Back end, you can see there are definitely flaws and imperfections, especially when you're looking at it under magnification and such. But it does look really gorgeous, and this is a kind of a big deal to me. Notice how close the bolsters are on this knife, that the two bolsters are almost the same size. So often on these knives that come out of Pakistan, one bolster is significantly longer than the other, but this one, they're very close to the same size. Again, this thing is truly a handmade knife. Not the world's greatest handmade knife, but not bad either. And there's the Damascus or the pattern welding on the blade. And what is it, the 5N20 or something like that, the nickel steel that they use, and then the supposedly 1095 carbon steel are the two steels that they use to make their Damascus. That's typically what I'm always hearing. Not a bad edge on there, and the pattern welding doesn't look too bad either. I mean, it's nice for what it is. I mean, we're looking at a knife here that, let me zoom back out. We're looking at a knife here that cost me all of $12. Actually, it was a winning bid of $11 on a free shipping item. I was willing to pay up to $13 on it because I saw another company selling a Vendetta knife. They actually called it a Vendetta knife, which was 4 inches long closed with a 3-inch blade, so 7 inches overall. They were selling it for $13, so I said, well, you know what, first I'm going to try and win this one with a bid of $13. So I put in a bid of $13, ended up winning it with $11 on the bid, and I am so happy that I won this instead of buying the other one, which had some kind of supposedly rosewood handle, but it just did not look anything like this. This one is just gorgeous looking to me. The other one was kind of plain and simple, and the 420 steel in the blade. So was the 420 steel better than the Pakistan Damascus steel? Very possible it could have been. I don't know. The other one said that it was out of Spain, but I have a feeling it was also made in Pakistan. In any case, let's get the measurements on this one. As you can see here, overall length is slightly over 8 3/4 inches. It might be 8 7/8 inches. I'm sorry, 7 3/4, 7 7/8 inches maybe. Blade length comes in right at 3.5 inches with a cutting edge that is 3 inches right there. And then the closed length of the knife is right at 4 1/4 inches. So a little bit bigger than the other one that I might have been able to pick up. I am not going to pick that one up, but Corsican also makes a couple different Vendetta knives. They have 2 of them in olive wood that I have seen. I don't know if they have any in horn. It would be great if they had one in horn. In any case, they have one in olive wood where the entire side is olive wood. Another one has a bolster. I don't know if it's a steel bolster or if it's a nickel silver bolster, but it's a slanted bolster. I might pick up the 2 Corsican knives, but the Corsican knives will cost 3 times more than what I paid for this knife. And the Corsican knives have the Corsican 420 steel in it. But I got to tell you, the Corsican knives, I've got several Corsican knives, and the build quality on those things is really excellent. So it'll be nice to pick one of these knives up by Corsican as well. But at the same time, they will cost 3 times more than this, and this knife is really nice. The only issue with it is that it does have blade wrap, so you definitely don't want to drop this blade into the channel, because you could definitely get the blade to get dull and everything else. Hopefully the Corsicans do not have blade wrap. But all in all, I'm pretty happy with this knife. And the only thing I would like to see is a company like Rough Rider, maybe. Rough Rider has been doing all sorts of interesting things in their reserve line. This would be a great knife to throw into the Rough Rider reserve line, I think. I'd love to see this knife perhaps on a 5-inch or 5.5-inch frame. That would be fantastic to see a bigger version of this one in 5 inches or 5.5 inches long, with like a VG10 steel blade or a D2 steel blade, and perhaps an actual lock on the back spring so that the blade would lock in place. And you have that nice blade going on. Could you imagine if you had a 5.5-inch frame, you could possibly put a 4.5-inch blade into it, a locking blade on something like that. That would be really a cool knife. So that would be my dream come true, to see a Vendetta knife on a 5-inch or 5.5-inch frame. Any case, with that said, I will let you go, and hope you enjoyed looking at a Vendetta knife.
let me take just a second to thank you once again for dropping by and spending a few minutes here at Knife Chats with Tobias. I really do appreciate it, and I do appreciate any comments that you leave. So please remember to give me that thumbs up, and also don't forget to subscribe and ring that notification bell so you'll know when the next episode is up and running. Thanks again for dropping by. Really do appreciate your time here.